Lyra moved through the wide halls of the Star Court like a quiet shadow. The ceiling was tall and full of old symbols, and the light from the distant stars came in thin bars through the windows. People in bright uniforms saw her coming and looked away. They crossed to the other side. They whispered. Her limp made her step slow. Her scarred arm hung in a soft brace that hissed once when she lifted it too fast. She had learned to hide the small, sharp pain inside, but she could not hide. The look in her eyes? The look was of someone who watched everything and still felt invisible. The human medic ship, the Mercy Tide, was docked at the station for a peace mission. Jonah did not expect much. Humans had been to this system before. They were often met with polite distance, polite words that did not mean friendship. Jonah spent his days in the medical wing helping traders with small injuries, fixing broken bones, giving quiet advice. He kept his hands clean and his mind open. He had seen many kinds of pride and many kinds of fear. He did not understand the look the nobles gave Lyra when she passed by. He only saw a face that did not get help when she needed it. She liked to sit in the small garden at the back of the palace. It was a secret place with plants that glowed faintly from their own slow breath. The garden was not for public visitors. It had thin benches and a low fountain where water moved in careful knots. Lyra came there when she wanted silence. She sat with her fingers moving over the carved stone, thinking, listening to the far sound of the station hum, and watching the small stars in the far sky. Her people called her weak in secret. They said she had been broken by the accident years ago. They forgot that she had once trained with the war tacticians, that she studied movement and choice like others studied writing. What they saw was a limp and a scar. What they did not see was her sharp mind. Jonah had a small walk to the garden. After helping a wounded miner with a deep cut, he carried the bandage supplies and a small tray of herbal tea the miner's home planet used for calm. He opened the thin door, and the scent of the plants moved over him. He expected no one. He saw Lyra sitting alone, her head turned toward the slow turning of the fountain. She had a thin cloth over her legs, and her other arm rested on the bench. She did not look sick. She looked tired. She looked like she had spent years listening and had nothing to say. Jonah set the tray on the little table near her and sat on the opposite bench. He did not move fast. He had learned that silence was heavy for some and light for others. He did not speak. After a while, Lyra turned her head. She looked at him. Her eyes held no surprise. She held a small face of someone who had watched many actors and had grown tired of the mask. "Nobody wanted to be close to me," she said in the common trade language, her voice soft like the wind when it moves through dry grass. I asked, "You?" Jonah blinked. The sentence struck him because it was not the usual demand or quiet complaint. It was simple and honest. He had spent months in stations where he offered help and got silence or refusal. He looked at her with calm eyes and said, "I am here. Can sit." "Do you want tea?" She nodded. Her face did not change to a smile, but her shoulders relaxed a little. She took the cup with her good hand and the steam rose slowly. Jonah had picked herbs that were not heavy or bitter. She smelled them, then drank. The warmth moved through her slowly. He sat there in quiet for a long time. "Why do you help people?" Lyra asked without looking at him. She turned her head slightly, as if she could feel the words in the air before they arrived. "I was taught to heal," Jonah said, "but I work to understand. If I do not listen, I break more. If I do not help, I lose the reason I came." Lyra studied him. "Humans are strange. They give without asking for control. Most here give praise or take power. You give only help." Jonah shrugged with both shoulders. "We learn fast when we are ignored. We have little time to waste on pride. What is your name?" "Lyra." She said it like a small secret. "I used to be in strategy school. After the fall, they closed the door. I am the one they pass by." "You still watch?" Jonah said. "Watching is the first step to changing the world. Some of us only use the words, not the seeing." She looked at him then. For the first time since he had come in, her lips moved up a little. Not a full smile, but the shape of it. They talked about small things. Lyra showed him the way. Her people wrote their quiet rules in the corners of halls, with thin marks only visible when light came at a certain angle. Jonah told her stories of his home planet, of how the wind there smelled like metal and rain after a long heat. She listened. He listened. The barrier between them was not gone, but it had a crack now. The crack let small light fall in. Rumor moved faster than the slow fountain water. Some of the younger nobles saw Jonah with Lyra in the garden. A gossip went to the chambers of the council. The council had old rules about the mixing of influence. A human spending time with a princess, even an outcast one, was not a violation of law, but it was a mark. Some smiled and shook their heads, some thought it foolish. A few, quiet and new to their rank, watched with the same interest Lyra had. When she first looked at Jonah's hands fixing a broken exosuit for a dock worker, they saw the human listen, saw Lyra not hide. The rival noble, Master Vare, heard too. He liked order in a clean line. People who stepped outside that line made him uneasy. He had watched Lyra for years. She had been a bright star once before. The accident. He remembered her strength. He now saw her sitting with a human. He did not like the way the small court whispers had a soft edge when they said her name. He moved his pieces quietly, asking his assistant if the council would talk about her new friend. He wanted to use this weakness, he thought, could be used to push her further down, to make her disappear again. If the human was the one bringing her back, then the human could become the excuse to weaken her again. Lyra felt the watching. She felt the cold steps of people who pretended not to look. She did not push Jonah away. She also did not ask for more. She kept her quiet view of the world. In the next days, Jonah came again, brought small tools. He fixed the soft joint in her mobility brace so it made less sound. He explained in simple words how the implants of another species were similar to the human support systems. Lyra corrected him quietly when he used a wrong word. They laughed once when a small bird from the garden tried to sit on Jonah's shoulder, and then slipped because of the different gravity. The palace had old recordings of famous battles. Lyra took Jonah to a hidden archive, showing him the faded tactical diagrams she had studied as a youth. She traced a line with her finger, and the image glowed faintly where she touched. "They think strength is only power," she said. "They do not know it is also in the choice to hold back, to wait, to change when the enemy changes." Jonah nodded. "You understand more than they give you credit for. If they let you speak, things could change. If they keep quiet, the same. Old danger will come again." She touched the small scar over her temple. "I asked you because I was tired of being ignored. I have ideas. I do not want power. I just want the chance to help when it matters. Humans do not shout. They act, and then people hear." The small group of young nobles who watched from a distance began to bring their own small questions too. Lyra and Jonah. One asked about a pattern she saw in the patrol routes. Another asked Jonah for a tiny bandage trick for a blister the gardener had. The garden, once empty, got quiet visitors. The palace staff wondered if the outcast princess had found a new game. Some whispered about her being used. Lyra simply kept her focus. Jonah stayed on the edge, careful, not stepping too far into the politics he did not understand, but not leaving her either. One evening, Lyra asked him, "Do you think they will ever listen to me?" Jonah looked at the thin stars and said, "They listen to what they fear or what they admire. You are not their fear and not yet their admiration. You are something they do not know how to name. That means you can become both if you want, or you can become something new. I will help you. I do not need their permission." She turned her head slowly. "I asked you because I had no one. You stay even when others leave. That is rare. Most here leave when the story gets hard. I stay because people are not just stories," Jonah said. "They are choices. You choose to speak. I choose to listen. Oh, that is enough to start." The wind of the station moved through the open part of the garden. Small plants bent slightly, like a bow ready to release. Lyra sat with her hands on her lap, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a small space open inside her. It was not full of hope yet. It was a crack that let her see that someone had noticed. Someone had chosen her. Lyra and Jonah kept meeting in the garden. The small crack between them grew. They did not talk only about pain or past. They talked about small habits, strange customs, and hidden fears. Lyra taught Jonah how her people read silence, showed him that when a noble's fingers tapped twice on the armrest, it meant doubt. And when they turned their head too fast, it meant hiding guilt. Jonah taught her how human medics watched hearts, not just bodies, and how a calm voice could change a scared patient's breath. Lyra listened, then tried it on a wounded guard who came to the garden with a sprained ankle. She guided him with quiet words and a soft touch, and the guard left with less pain and more respect in his eyes, told others. Small seeds moved. The young nobles who watched began to come closer. Lyra shared strategy stories from her training, but she did not speak like a teacher. She spoke like someone telling a secret. Jonah added medical logic, showing them how a small choice in movement could save someone from falling or getting trapped. The nobles, new in their rank and tired of old speeches, felt a small excitement. One of them, a quiet girl named Rhea, brought a small broken drone and asked Lyra if she could help its navigation. Lyra looked at the broken lines and said she could fix it if they bent the path slightly, not by force, but by giving the drone room to adjust itself. Rhea watched in wonder as the drone moved smoother, avoiding obstacles without loud commands. She thanked Lyra softly, and the word moved. To others like fire and dry grass, Master Vare grew colder. He watched from the council gallery when Lyra's name was spoken with new warmth. He saw the small groups that gathered near the garden, heard the quiet praise from lower staff, who said the princess was different since she had the human near. Vare did not like the idea of change that came from outside his clear lines. He called his old friend, the High Archivist, and asked for the records of Lyra's past training. He wanted to find something to remind others she was broken, to make her weakness a shield that would push her back, not let her grow. Vare did not act openly, used a quiet hand. He ordered a public review of strategy records under the excuse of updating history for new threats. He told some nobles that old lessons could protect the realm. The review gave him access to the archive where Lyra had kept her secret study notes. Vare's assistant found the hidden diagrams Lyra had, marked with small changes over time. The rival noble planned a slow trap. He would present the idea that Lyra was rewriting strategy without approval, making her appear unstable and dangerous. Then he would push the council to limit her influence again, cut her access to the hidden rooms, and isolate her, using the human as the trigger. Why does a human sit with a princess who breaks rules? Jonah noticed the change before Lyra did. He saw the watchful eyes tighten when they entered the garden. A guard who once smiled now frowned slightly when Lyra spoke. The young nobles stopped coming openly. Jonah went to Lyra with a small data pad. He showed her the pattern in the viewer, the watchers, the slow removal of support staff, the small questions that stopped. Lyra did not react with anger. She closed her eyes and placed her hand over the pad. She said, "He wants me quiet. He wants the old story back. He thinks if I look weak, he wins. He is afraid of what happens if I keep moving. He is not afraid of weakness," Jonah said. "He is afraid of change. Weakness you can control. Change you cannot." Lyra nodded. She asked him, "What do we do? I can stand and speak, but the voice in the halls is already soft. If I fight loud, they will call it anger. I stay quiet, Vare will push me deeper. What if I just disappear again?" "Disappear, and the same old failure will come," Jonah said. "You do not need their permission to help. You need friends who see you. You have some. We can make more." He paused. "But you have to show strength the way they can understand. Not by shouting, by action that cannot be twisted." They planned small moves. Lyra would not go to the council with a demand. She would help where the council's pride made them slow. She sent Rhea a message asking the young noble to bring small questions about supply lines in the outer rim. Rhea did. Lyra drew simple diagrams showing how hidden delays hurt traders and how a small change in timing could keep food moving. Rhea whispered it to one of the middle lords who passed, it to a minister worried about hunger. The minister held a quiet meeting and moved the supply plan slightly, keeping the blame on his own choice. The goods arrived sooner. People were grateful. No one knew Lyra had helped. Ver's plan lost some power when the public, without knowing why, felt the sudden small shift in comfort. The rival noble grew sharper. He leaked a rumor that Jonah was teaching forbidden human tactics to the princess, sent a minor official to watch the garden and record their talks. The official brought back a shallow report. The human and princess spoke with soft voices, looked at old maps, and sometimes laughed quietly. Nothing violent. Ver used the report anyway. He presented it to the council under the heavy words, "The human influence is changing the princess's mind. We do not know the shape of that change. Perhaps it is better to limit her reach before she leads us into error." Siren, a senior diplomat who had once helped the human merchants, quietly heard the report. She had met Jonah before when he treated a little child from a distant world, and she had seen the calm in his hands. She also remembered Lyra's quiet strength from the day. The princess had walked past her in the hall, with her head held even though the guards lowered theirs. She said nothing in the open meeting, but later she asked to speak with Lyra alone. She found Lyra in the smaller part of the garden, near the broken statue of an old hero.
Hi.
Siren did not begin with accusation. She said, "I hear you have been helping the realm, and I hear some fear that help from a human is too strange." "I want to know what you see," Lyra told her. She spoke of the slow loss of trust in the council, the small needs ignored, the shape of delay that killed hope. Siren listened. When Lyra spoke of Ver's quiet move, she did not react with shock. She had seen many who used pride to hide fear. She said, "Strength is a story told by many. If you keep your voice low, they will shape it for you. If you speak, they will try to break it. I can help you choose words that do not give them their excuse. But you must show the truth clearly. You saved lives without asking. That is your power." Lyra thought about the choice. She did not ask for control. She asked Siren, "How can I help without giving Ver a weapon to use?" "You already do," Siren said. "Help one more time where they hesitate. Let the results sit in their hands like a fact they cannot ignore. Then ask for a small council. Seat for those who helped. Not for power, but for voice. You give them no reason to deny the truth. They will fight. I will stand with you." Jonah watched from the edge. He understood the danger. He also saw a new light in Lyra's eyes, not bright but steady. She moved like someone carrying a small flame in a bowl, careful not to spill. But knowing the flame could warm many if kept safe. The rival noble's next move came fast. He called a public forum to discuss the human influence problem. He planned to use the fear of change, the unknown motives of Jonah, and the old story of Lyra's fall to push a rule. The princess should have no access to tactical rooms without oversight. He expected quiet agreement from others who were tired of small troubles. Instead, Siren came with Lyra's quiet supporters. Rhea sat near the front. The small defender from the mining colony, now healed, stood in the back as a witness. The forum started with Ver's cold speech, spoke about safety, control, and the need to keep tradition. Lyra did not stand. She waited. When Ver finished, she walked slowly to the center. Oh, she did not shout. She spoke in the common voice, the one all could hear without twisting. "I do not want titles," she said. "I want to help." Others delayed when the raid came. I saw how small choice saved many. I did not ask. I fixed pads that broke food. I sat with a human because he listened. You say I break rules, but the old rules nearly let the colony fall. You call human help strange. But the same help kept the traders fed. If you take my access, you take the chance to stop the next mistake. That is weakness, not strength. The room was quiet. Ver's face tightened. Some nobles shifted. Siren stood behind Lyra, silent but present. The small defender stepped forward and spoke of the raid and how Princess Lyra's plan had saved lives when others argued. The young noble Rhea added how a small change had kept food moving and how she had learned from Lyra without being forced. The story built like slow water filling a basin. Ver tried to cut in, but the words had weight now. They were not rumors. They were facts spoken by those who felt them. Council did not vote immediately. The argument paused. Bear left the room with a lower head than usual. The plan to limit Lyra stalled. Lyra did not smile. She only bowed slightly to Siren, and then to Jonah, who was outside the window watching. She felt the crack grow again, wider, but still a crack. She knew Vera would not stop. She also knew she had more friends than before. Jonah stayed. The human who came for peace sat with the outcast princess, and their small acts had started to change more than just the garden. Ask ChatGPT. The warning came at night. A small mining colony on the outer rim sent a distress flare. Their communication array blinked red, then went quiet. The raider ships had come faster than any model expected. They struck with quick pulses, tearing supply lines and locking the colony's defense system in frozen loops. The council met in the High Hall. Old rules fought new danger. Some wanted to wait for full authorization. Others argued about blame for past failures. The delay ate into time. Lyra watched the meeting through a thin feed in the garden. She saw the hesitation, the folded hands, the speeches that had no action. Colony's message was not loud enough. For the High Lords, because it came from a place they thought far and unimportant. Lyra felt the weight of the slow story again. She saw danger early. She offered help, and her voice was soft. She turned to Jonah. If they wait, they lose the rim, she said. I know their pattern. I studied the raider species when I was young. They move like broken wind, fast where the wall is weak, slow where they think they have strength. The council will argue. I can help small units move before the main fleet is ready. They will call it risk. I call it the only way. Jonah had seen many places fall because people waited for the right word. He believed her. He also knew the danger of acting without full support. The raiders could use a failed move as a reason to take more. He asked, if we do this, how many can we save? How many will we lose? Lyra did not answer with numbers. She pointed to old maps and slow data from the colony that showed the supply paths and escape corridors. The raiders will hit the south gate first, she said. They will try to cut the main line and then push inward, thinking the defenders will scramble. If small units move on the side path, they can block the push, slow the spread, and give time for civilians to reach the safe vaults. The council is blind to this because their maps are too clean. They do not see the cracks. She looked at him. I need your healing teams near those small units. If they break, people die. They hold, the colony lives. Jonah gave a small nod. He went to Siren first. She had not joined openly, but she had influence. He told her the plan quietly, not hiding the risk. Siren listened, watching the feed of the colony's fading lights. She stepped out in front of an emergency meeting and said, Princess Lyra sees a path. Her idea is not protocol, but the rim cannot wait. Give her small forces and let the human healers go with them. If it fails, we learn. If it works, we save many. The old guard hissed, but the young nobles who watched earlier Rhea among them supported the move with silent eyes. The council agreed with soft words and a condition. Lyra's team could act. But they must report every step, and a senior observer would be placed to watch. Ver's voice pushed the condition, as if he expected failure to prove his fear. Lyra prepared quickly. She chose a small group, 2 veteran scouts who owed her a past favor, young engineer who had fixed one of her old support engines, and Rhea, who knew the supply lines and was willing to risk being near the front. Jonah sent 3 healers with the group. He taught them the quick bandage shifts and the small breathing checks that could be done while moving. He added a hidden trick, a simple code of taps and light flashes to signal pain level without loud noise. Lyra gave quiet orders. She did not ask for permission from everyone. She moved like someone carrying a fragile stone, careful but fast. The raiders struck earlier than the council expected. Sleek ships with ragged armor cut through the outer sensors and landed fighters near the south gate. Explosions shook the rim outpost. The defenders faltered. Lyra's small team moved on the side path, slipping through underused tunnels and hidden transport shafts. When they reached the outer gate, they saw the raiders pushing hard. The 2 veteran scouts cut the raiders' flank by using the narrow passage that made the raider mechs slow. Lyra sent Rhea to reroute supply drones to drop small decoy signals, making the raiders think the main gate still held strong. The young engineer opened small vents to release smoke that covered their movement without setting off alarms. Jonah's healers set up near the path entrance, ready to patch wounds as the small units engaged. The first clash was quiet and sudden. A raider squad tried to push through the side tunnel. The scouts used their weight and timing to slow the march. Lyra watched their movements like a calm river, adjusting the flow. She sent a quick signal to Jonah's healer. A scout took a heavy strike to the leg. The healer moved in without hesitation, using the coded tap to measure pain and the fast bandage that kept the leg stable. The scout pushed forward again. The raiders expected the colony to fall quickly. They did not expect the side path to resist. The plan worked not because of force, but because of small, unpredictable movements. The raiders kept shifting the main assault, thinking they had broken the line, but their attention pulled away from the supply vaults, giving civilians time to move. Word came back through silent comms. The civilians had reached the safe vaults. The raiders, angry, focused more. Power on the side path. Rhea used this. She sent a hidden message to the colony defenders, guiding them to open a false gate that made the raiders believe their push would succeed. When raiders poured through, the veteran scouts trapped them in tight space where their heavy weapons could not swing freely. Lyra used the chance to bring a small recovery team forward, pushing the trapped raiders back in a controlled retreat that looked like strategy, not desperation. The cost appeared. The young engineer's suit took damage when he opened the false gate. He fell, and a raider fire burned near him. Jonah's healer was there in seconds, his hands moving with calm speed, sealing the burn and stabilizing the engineer's breathing. The engineer gasped, looked at Lyra, and then at the human healer. He nodded once. The small bond of trust grew deeper. They held the side path long enough. The raiders pulled back, confused and bruised, thinking the main gate had won the fight. The temporary hold gave time for the Council's delayed main fleet to arrive with heavier support. The raider armada did not collapse. They shifted to a new target farther inside the rim, but the damage to their formation broke their rhythm. The colony did not fall. The news reached the high hall slowly, then with more speed. The council could not hide what happened. The old guard had to admit. The princess's quiet plan and the human medics had saved vital time. The outer rims. Supply vaults were intact. The civilians were safe. The raiders were wounded enough to retreat and regroup, not to press further immediately. In the quiet after the attack, Lyra stood with her small team near the damaged gate. She had a fresh bruise on her leg where debris hit, but she did not complain. Rhea held a small broken piece of the raider signal device, studying how the decoy worked. The young engineer fixed the last crack in his suit. Jonah moved among them, checking pulse, fixing a small cut, keeping his voice low. The veteran scouts nodded, their usual stoic faces softening in respect. The small defender they had saved earlier, now a volunteer, came with water and quietly offered thanks. The council's public report called it a timely defensive adjustment by minor units. The words were careful. They did not mention Lyra by name at first. Vare's advisors whispered that the princess had overreached and that the delay in main fleet response was the real issue. The quiet supporters, however, were not silent. The young noble Rhea spoke in small groups about how the princess had guided their moves without demand. The healed engineer told the story of how the human healer saved him when his suit burned. The civilian leader from the vault sent a private message to Siren, saying the colony would have fallen if the secret plan had not worked. Lyra knew the cost. She also knew the choice. She had stepped into a place the council ignored. She had not asked for praise. She had not used her pain as shield or weapon. She had helped. Jonah saw her looking toward the high hall where the old doors were closed again. He put a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You gave them a fact," he said. "They cannot twist it away easily. Now they must decide what to do with it." She nodded. She did not speak the word, "Thank you." She did not need to. The bond between them was deeper now. The gap was not gone, but the crack was wide enough that others could see through. Vare's plan to quiet her had weakened, but the enemy of change never stopped. The next move would come, and both of them knew it. For now, the colony lived, and the small people who had once ignored her looked at her with a shade of thought they had not allowed before. Ask ChatGPT. The victory at the rim did not bring peace. It brought attention. Lyra's quiet action had saved many, but the old lines of power felt shaken. Master Vare did not forget. He watched the new small groups that praised Lyra's name. He watched the way some nobles who once followed his tone now paused when he spoke. The crack in the old order grew, and Vare wanted to close it by breaking the one who made it wider. He did not strike directly, used the oldest tool. Doubt turned into story. He gathered a few quiet council members and spoke with a low voice. The princess walks with humans. The humans' ways are foreign. Who knows what they put in her mind? He gave them a report filled with half-true hints. Jonah's calm in the garden, the way Lyra listened, their shared laughter there turned those into whispers of manipulation. He used the ancient laws about influence and claimed the princess's decisions now came from outside, not her own. He pushed for a public hearing. He wanted the council to vote for limits, cut her access to strategy rooms, place guards around her, and force her to use only approved advisors. He framed it as safety and tradition. Lyra heard the news through Siren. The diplomat brought it. Quietly, not as a threat but as warning. She was in the hidden garden when Siren arrived. The broken statue of the old hero was half behind her. Its empty eyes seemed to watch like silent judges. Siren did not start with sympathy. She said, Vare moves his pieces. He wants to make you quiet again. He will call what you did dangerous. He wants to take your chance away. Lyra's face did not shift. She knew the pattern. She had felt the slow pull of isolation before. She said, he wants to hide that the thing he feared saved the rim. He will try to make truth look like error. What do? We show more truth, Siren answered. The things he hides in shadows, we bring into light. You have allies now. Let them speak before he twists their silence. Do not give him a single chance to say you acted alone. Bring the small voices. Make the story too plain to hide. Lyra accepted. She did not want to fight, but she also did not want to bow. She asked Siren to bring the civilians saved, the young noble Rhea, the healed engineer, and the 2 veteran scouts. She sent word to Jonah with a short message. Meet at the forum and bring those who owe no loyalty to Vare's old lines. Jonah came early. He saw the tension in the hall. The public hearing room had high glass walls. The light came in cold. Vare stood before the council seats with his calm face. He spoke first, using slow words about proper order and the risk of outside influence. He made his case sound like care. The princess led unsanctioned action, he said, used human methods hidden from oversight. We cannot let foreign thought move unchecked into strategy. We must protect our people from unseen change. Lyra entered with Siren beside her. She did not wear the bright dress of ceremony. She wore simple clothes of her rank, but not made to impress. She looked at the council quietly. The small group behind her came in one by one. Rhea walked with the soft pride of someone who had learned new power. The engineer's arm had a thin patch from the burn, but he did not hide it. The veteran scouts stood straight, their expressions quiet like stone that had been moved and now held a new place. The civilian leader, old and tired, carried a small, sealed plate of the rim's rare food as a gift. He placed it gently near Siren and then stood to the side. Vare smiled slightly when he saw the group. I did not expect such a crowd, he said. Perhaps the princess has gathered followers to hide the truth. Lyra stepped forward. She did not wait for invitation. She spoke clear and soft. I did not act alone. She turned to the council. The rim would have fallen if the old voice had stayed quiet. The raiders did not wait for permission. The people who saved it did not wait for titles. You heard their fear and delay. I offered a path. I asked for small units, and they moved. The human healer and his team were there because they chose to be. The engineer's suit burned, and he lived because the healers were ready. The scouts held the side path. Rhea moved the supply lines. The civilians reached safe places because someone acted when you argued. You can make rules, but you cannot change fact. Her voice did not break. She did not shout. She let the truth stand. The hall was quiet enough to hear the small hum of systems.veh or tried to cut in. Princess, you broke law, I kept lives, Lyra said. She turned slightly. The engineer stepped forward. I was going to die, he said. My suit burned. The healer was there before I could think. He did not ask for reward. He just healed. Princess Lyra gave order. She did not demand. She moved. People, when the old council argued, the Rim lives because of their choice. His voice shook a little, not from fear, but from the weight of truth. REYA added, I learned from her. She did not force me. I changed a path and food came. The people felt full because she saw the delay the old maps missed. She is not broken. She is the one who fixed the weakness you hid. The veteran scout stepped up slowly. The older one spoke. We owed her. The raiders moved wrong because she shaped their thought. She did not take credit. She helped. The choice to act saved the Rim. The rule to keep her quiet would hurt more than help. The civilian leader held up a small token from the vault. I am old. I have seen many rulers. I bring you food and truth. The Rim would have fallen if the quiet path had not opened. Do not let fear bury what saved us. Siren stood behind Lyra, quiet. She did not speak at first. When Ver tried to, push again, she said. You speak of outside influence, Master Ver. The real outside influence last night was the Raider Armada. The influence that saved the Rim came from those you call strange. The question is not who touched whom. The question is who was brave enough to act when the hall argued. The council murmured, some shifted, others stayed still. Ver's face was tight. He tried to paint their words as emotion and not fact. Lyra looked at him and said, You wanted to limit me because you feared change. I did not come for your permission. It came because people would die if you waited. You can make a rule now. You can try to take access. But if you cut the path that lets truth move in, the next Rim will fall. That will be on you, not me. A vote happened after long silence. The old guard tried to push the limit, but the weight of testimony pulled the room. They could not fully block her. The council chose a compromise. Lyra would keep limited access. 2 strategy rooms, but under a new council seat for emergency insight, which allowed her to speak on fast threats without full delay. Ver's motion to place a watcher permanently beside her failed. The council, in public record, praised the combined effort of outside and inside units and offered a cautious thanks. Ver left with no open defeat, but the small crack in his power had deepened. After the hearing, the rival noble did a last move. He leaked to some gossip channels that the princess had used human influence to bend minds, trying to paint the truth as manipulation. The media of their world took the line in quiet corners, growing small murmurs again. Lyra heard it. She did not respond loudly. She went to the garden. Jonah followed. She sat near the broken statue. He stood beside her. You spoke? He said. They heard because others spoke too. The line is not fixed. He will try again. He will, Lyra said. But now they have more voices. The ones who felt the Rim live. He cannot erase them with his old rules. He will try to twist their praise. Will not give him the chance to hide the truth again. Jonah nodded. Prepare. The next move will come when he thinks you are quiet. You keep working, small actions stack. That is how orders fall. Lyra looked at the thin light from the stars. I asked you because no one wanted to be close. Now they talk. Some with hope. Some with fear. I do not want their praise. I want the chance to do it again when the next danger comes. It will. Get it, Jonah said. You showed them a choice. Now they have to carry it. The crack had grown. Ver's plan had not failed, but it had lost its clean line. The old order felt the pressure of truth moving through small voices. Lyra and Jonah both knew the next threat would test the new space they made. For now, the dangerous whisper campaign had been met with fact and slow support. The bond between the outcast princess and the human healer held steady, and others began to join, not out of fear, but because they had seen what real help looked like. The council's compromise gave Lyra a small seat and a name: Emergency Insight. It was not full power, but it let her speak fast when the danger came again. The old nobles pretended the threat was over. Bear watched her with quiet eyes, waiting for a slip. Lyra did not slip. She moved like water in a narrow channel, soft, steady, and hard to stop. The raiders were not gone. Their force had retreated, but their scouts brought news. They prepared a second wave. This time they meant to hit deeper and with more ships. The Rimworld's new defenses had raw strength, but they still followed old patterns. Lyra and Jonah met in the garden early, before sunrise over the station's horizon. Rhea came with a small datapad the veteran scouts followed. The engineer had brought a rough model of the raider formation from the last attack. "They will hit the inner hub," Lyra said. "Not the outer gate. They think we will brace. There again. They plan to cut the main conduit and then flood the hub with fast strikes. Their patterns repeat, but they add noise to hide it. We can change the noise into a trap." Jonah nodded. It brought more healers. This time he had taught them to move in teams that could slip between heavy fire and still patch wounds. He added another layer: small field shelters that could appear like debris, but hold medics and small sensors. "We have more eyes now," he said. "Your seat helped. People heard you. Some moved without being told. We can train those who will listen." He looked at Rhea. "You will help shape the movement of food and fuel. The scouts will move like shadows, and the hub defenders will have small units that shift when the enemy shifts." Lyra placed her hand on the model, tracing the lines where the raiders would try to cut the conduit. "We teach the hub to think. Like the side path," she said. "Not strong and fixed, but small and smart. They will feel pressure and move before it breaks them. We mix human healing speed with the old system's heavy fire. They expect us to stay in one place. We will not." She turned to the engineer. "Can you make small decoy transmitters that look like the main conduit nodes, but send false signals when touched?" He smiled, a small thing that broke his tired face. "I can. We masked their pulse with the same code the raiders used last time. They will waste energy on ghosts and leave their real strike exposed." The veteran scouts added quiet moves. They would blend with the hub patrols and nudge the defenders before the raiders arrived, using small signals only those trained would understand. Rhea took the new plan to the traders and supply workers. She told them to move food in irregular bursts, making the supply pattern unpredictable so the raiders could not time the cuts. The hub commanders were skeptical, but Siren backed the plan quietly in the council chambers, saying the emergency insight seat had earned its place. Training began. The old soldiers watched Lyra and Jonah with thin distrust at first. Then they saw the result of simple drills. Small groups practiced shifting positions, moving defense nodes without calling for full orders. Human healers practiced pulling wounded from under fire fast, and alien heavy units learned to cover those small moves without expecting permission. The young nobles who had once whispered now stood beside the defenders, learning how to read soft signals from the scouts. The hub, once rigid, started to breathe. Vare's watchers reported quietly. He saw movement that broke the old clean lines. He tried to say the new method would fail. The raiders did not wait. Their second wave came. It was larger, faster, and focused on the hub, just as Lyra had predicted.
"Our dark ships cut the sky."
The first strike was not at the outer gate. It hit the conduit nodes with sharp beams, trying to cut flow and push panic into the defenders. The decoy transmitters glowed faintly, catching the raiders' attention. Their strike fired and then found nothing. The false feedback drew more fire. The real nodes pulsed quietly, and the hub defenders shifted without loud command. The small units moved like wind around heavy rocks. The human healers slipped into hidden shelters, patched wounds in seconds, and sent silent signals too. The scouts pushed defenders into positions the raiders did not expect. The raiders burned energy chasing ghosts, and their formation broke. The real strike came next. The raiders tried to flood the hub through a planned breach in a side tunnel. Rhea's team had already moved food and fuel away from that path, leaving it light and easy to block. Lyra's new defenders closed the breach before the raiders could push through, using a mix of heavy fire and quick repositioning. The raider commanders, confused by the shifting defense, tried to redirect. The small adaptive units followed, cutting supply lines to the raider advance and making their large ships slow and clumsy. Jonah's healers moved in and out, healing burns and broken limbs, letting the defenders hold longer than the raiders expected. The battle changed when the raiders tried to force a new route through the central node. The humanoid quick teams had placed small energy dampers that slowed the raider ships just enough to break their rhythm. The old heavy units then hit hard. The combined attack pushed the raiders into a narrow space where their superiority in speed meant little. Their second wave, which had started proud and loud, now looked unsure. In the pressure, Vare watched from a distant gallery. His plans to use the princess's past weakness as a shield had failed again. The new order moved like a single organism. Lyra's insight guiding intention, Jonah's healing holding it together, the scouts whispering change, and the heavy guns striking when the opening came. The raiders, injured and burned in their pride, pulled back. Their second wave did not crush the hub. It broke like a sharp wind against a flexible bowl. The aftermath was quiet and loud at the same time. Alarms faded. The hub defenders counted the cost. Some were hurt, but the small units had kept the core systems alive. Civilians came, helping the wounded with food and shelter. Siren sent word to the council. The public message called it the new combined defense that saved the hub. Some old records still tried to hide the names, but the small groups that carried the truth did not allow it to fade. Lyra stood in the center of the hub's main square. She had a thin bruise along her side from falling debris, but she did not complain. Rhea walked beside her, and the veteran scouts waited at the edge. Jonah came with the healers. The young engineer had a new device strapped to his arm that now helped stabilize conduit pulses. The hub commander, once rigid, bowed slightly. The people who had doubted the new method now watched the defenders move without hesitation, in a rhythm they had helped create. The council called a meeting. Bear did not speak loudly, but victory had changed something obvious. They could not cut the truth now. Siren stood beside Lyra when the report was read. The council praised the flexible defense inspired by emergency insight and human cooperation. Lyra's seat was no longer quiet. A new term appeared in the record. The hub would begin training more in the blended style, and the emergency insight office would expand to include others who had small voices and big ideas. The galaxy heard. Young nobles from other systems sent quiet messages asking to learn. Some old rivals began to send observers, not to spy, but to study. The outcast princess who once walked alone now had a small group of people who followed her, not because of titles, but because they had seen how she built strength from quiet choice. Master Vare stood in the hall after the meeting. He did not speak to Lyra. He watched her from the corner as she spoke softly with a new group, a mix of junior defenders and a young diplomat from a distant system. He felt the widening crack again. He placed his hand on the carved railing and did not move it. Change was not gone. It had new weight. That night the hub had a small celebration. Not loud, not full of gold, but with food shared and stories told. Lyra sat with Jonah and Rhea. The engineer brought a small model of the decoy transmitter, now improved. The veteran scouts shared quiet jokes about the raiders' confusion. Jonah looked at Lyra and said, "They will try again. They always do. But now you have more than the crack. You have a path." She looked at the small group. "I asked you because no one wanted to be close," she said. "Now they come, not because they must, but because they choose. That is different. We built a net. The next one will fall, or it will learn from us." The story did not end with a victory banner. It ended with quiet movement. The hub trained more. The outcasts, the young, the ones ignored, came to learn. Lyra and Jonah kept working. Vare planned in silence. The galaxy was shifting. The new bond between the disabled alien princess and the human healer had become a seed. It would grow not because of force, but because it had proven that choice, trust, and small action could change what others called fixed order.